ChatGPT, and Microsoft's Bing. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to keep you up on all the latest from MacVoices. Watch or listen to MacVoices straight from your email client. Sign up at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay up to date. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's MacVoices Live. It's Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We are on YouTube, live at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We have some of our friends joining us in the chat room. More are coming. More usually show up just a little bit after the show starts. We'd love to have you here with us, with them in the chat room, commenting and enjoying things and, just having a good time. These shows have really turned into one of my favorite things of the week, and I'm sure if you tune in, they will be one of yours too. Number of topics to go around tonight. We want to make sure, though, that the first thing we do is go around and see who all's here and why they're dressed the way they are. So on that basis, in the corner of the angels, David Ginsburg is here. David, good to see you.
Good to see you. I was going through withdrawal last week. We missed you, and it was a whole long week without having MacVoices Live, so I'm so glad we're back. And I'm wearing purple, so I'm just being just a normal color here. So
royalty, is that it?
Yeah, maybe it is.
Okay, all right.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. Yeah, I was kind of bummed last week, but there was just no way the schedule was going to work out. But hey, those things happen once in a while.
It happens.
Next up, Mr. Webb Bixby is appropriately attired for his dinner. Webb, good to see you.
Chuck, good to see you. And yes, I'm wearing my my favorite barbecue T-shirt. It also happens to be in the color of Chiefs red for the Super Bowl this weekend. That I'm very fortunate enough that I will be attending on Sunday. So
very nice.
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. Go Chiefs. Yeah. Well, so for me, it kind of comes down to I root for Kansas City barbecue and steak or Philly cheesesteaks. I think Kansas City barbecue and steaks win.
Kansas City barbecue always wins.
Always.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry, Philly.
Well, here, let me try that again. So
yeah.
You're right.
I would think people in Philly are a lot more likely to drive over to your house and be mean to you.
Well, that's quite possible, I admit, but I'll take the risk. Jim Ray is commenting on who might be assaulting me next. Jim, good to see you.
Hello, who are you people? Some of you look familiar from long ago.
It was only a week, Jim. Come on, let's not get too far gone here.
Maybe in your universe.
Well, yeah. Mr. Jeff Gamet is here, wishing that he too had barbecue. Jeff, good to see you.
I really want barbecue right now, really bad. I blame you and Webb. It's good to see you, and I'm dressed like this because court order says I can't be naked.
Oh man.
No.
You okay,
Next
Eric?
up.
Oh, that got me.
Eric Bolden is doing a spit take for us. Eric, great to see you. I'm sorry that just happened that way.
I should not have taken that drink.
Yeah, Eric, that one really is on you. You should know better.
Yeah, you should know with this group, you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to happen. Well, a couple topics on the agenda tonight. For some reason, I personally was having trouble getting access to ChatGPT. I don't know why, but I finally got in earlier today and was playing with it. And then David brought to my attention that there was a bit of a Microsoft announcement today that I had heard a little something about, but frankly, I hadn't paid any attention because Microsoft. David, you want to give us an update on what's going on?
from what I understand, there's going to be an integration between Bing and ChatGPT. I caught it late, so but I don't know if you're going to put the article in our chat, but it was something that they're going to integrate. And of course, Andrew Orr wrote this article that I shared. That they're going to integrate it into the Bing and its Edge browser, and they're going to be investing billions to do this. It's not going to be something cheap, and it's going to be, it'll have the chat functionality, where people can ask questions, receive answers in natural language. So this has been such a controversy. I mean, I know there's been a lot of discussion, especially with journalists, that some of these sites are writing articles and using ChatGPT as their way of writing particular stories. The stories, a lot of times, it's stories they don't want to write because they're just not very exciting. I know CNET was having some being challenged about that, and I think TechCrunch was there as well with as far as in the tech world of articles. But this is definitely going to be something interesting to see how this integrates. I mean, I've tried it a bunch of times, and I think it's pretty amazing, honestly. And it just I'm sure most of you guys have tried it, and it's something that's cool. But Microsoft's trying to go after Google, and Google's, I think is looking at this as well. And then, why not? And they got to get some activity with Bing somehow, because it's been a faltering search engine for quite some time. And who knows what Apple will do? I'm sure Apple's looking at AI in some other ways, and not necessarily. I know there's been some rumors about them potentially doing their own search, but This seems to be the way of the future, and it all started because of an open source tool like you just mentioned, ChatGPT, that people have been signing up for, and it's pretty slick. But I think Satya Nadella actually did an interview. I don't know if it was with NBC or one of the networks, and that they're going to air it tomorrow. That he talked all about it. So Microsoft seems like they're all in on this. So this will be interesting.
Well, the thing that struck me in the last few days is, as we record this Tuesday night, I believe Wednesday in Paris, Google is doing an event where they're allegedly going to reveal more about their intelligent chat service. I think I've got this right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't I see something that the Chinese, the Baidu has something also under development?
I didn't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, somebody else did. So it's almost like all this stuff has been going on, and it's been going on very quietly, and then all of a sudden, everything's bursting onto the scene. Microsoft is doing what I feel like they frequently do. They're just going and partnering with somebody else instead of inventing their own. We'll see how that actually plays out, but I'm curious. I mean, how many people here have played with it? How many people have any strong feelings about it, good, bad, or indifferent?
I've played with it a little bit, and my feelings are mixed. I'm more concerned than like angry or upset, because getting upset about people writing articles with ChatGPT today is kind of lame, I think, because AI-based articles and blog posts have been a thing for a while now, and I even get ads for some of the companies that were doing this before ChatGPT existed. I get ads from these companies in my social network stream site, like Facebook. So this isn't new. ChatGPT is just the new one, and it's also very interesting in the way it works. Here's where my concern comes in. ChatGPT is like computer-generated mansplaining. It is certain it's right, and it may not be, but it's going to make it sound like it is. And I think the problem right now is that a lot of people are taking what ChatGPT is generating and accepting it as gospel, and it is not. And in many cases, it is very confidently wrong. So, blending it in or merging it on some level with Bing, while I can see where that could be a really compelling thing. Today, I think that would be a really bad thing because people trust the results that they see in their web searches. And
whoa, hold the phone.
The general public. Okay, not us, because we know better. Generally speaking, people will trust the results that their web browser gives them. And ChatGPT is just going to play into that and give people information that's wrong, potentially. I mean, we don't know exactly what Microsoft's going to do, but I'm very concerned about a mediocre, at least for me, search engine partnering with an AI tool that is more than happy to give you wrong information. What could possibly go wrong?
But Jeff, this is just part of your and mine competitive edge. When, on the support forum for Panorama, somebody submitted, they asked some Panorama a programming question. And just as you said, what it did what it does best, very confidently expressed a wrong answer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty hilarious. But it looked very plausible. And, I had to look at it closely and like, yeah, this is wrong. But, it wasn't like just obviously wrong. You had to look at it and it was like, yeah, okay. It's, they mixed in some stuff from some other languages and whatnot. But, there's just tons of garbage out in the world and lots of humans write horrible garbage. And
Mm-hmm.
in some cases are very confident about it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, just more to wade through. And I think it's a fad right now, but, ultimately it's, not really a breakthrough and it's not producing accurate stuff. So yeah, maybe another tool occasionally, but definitely one that, needs to be very carefully used. And I think not, where's our self-driving cars? And, I think it's been the year of artificial intelligence since 1985, like the whole time I've been in the computer business, people in the 70s even were using Eliza and like, oh yeah, we're here, fake humans. I
remember Eliza.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so I'll take the other side just for a second. This is not perfect, and I know that we all know people that explain things very confidently that are absolutely incorrect. So, it doesn't have anything over humans in that regard. But I've also seen and listened to a lot of people talk about ChatGPT as a tool to get things started, to sort of point you in the right direction.
It's great for that.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, you posted in our private chat that you asked it to write you a bio, and it wrote you a bio. And I know that there are a couple things in there that I don't think I'm pretty sure are not correct.
It sounds really plausible, doesn't it?
It says he's well known for his expertise. So,
so that should be a red flag right there.
Yeah.
So, and the whole reputation thing just can't be right. So.
Yeah.
Leaving things out.
It obviously went out there and found a lot of information about you because of you've been doing things on the internet for so many years. If I were to put my name in there, I bet I just tried. I guess if I would have put InTouch for iOS, I might find something. But your name is a little more. I'm assuming that's all you did was write a bio for Jeff Gamet, right?
Yes. And this is what it spit out, and there's just enough correct in there that you can read it and think, yeah, that sounds like Jeff's bio, but like there's so much that is just straight up wrong. Like for example, I have never written for Macworld ever. There is no Mac vice president of editorial director for the Mac Observer. Or when I was there wasn't. I still don't think there is.
So are you saying we should believe you and not this infallible AI?
Well, to be fair, I'm only human, and this did come from superior technology. So I'm clearly misremembering my credentials.
I asked it for what the advantages of a RAM-based database were, and it came up with 5. I think maybe I asked for 5 bullet points, I remember, but it came up with 5, and actually 4 of them were really quite good. And then the 5th one was that you didn't have to worry about losing data when power goes out, and this was an advantage of it over other databases. And it's like,
well, I mean, you don't have to worry. Maybe you should, but you don't have to.
Well, I'm paraphrasing, and this was a while ago, but it was like, just. It was saying that was an advantage, that you didn't lose your data if the power went out, and that was a problem with other databases. But
I'm just
completely backwards.
I'm just typing. I had to break it up, but I just put what ChatGPT did for your bio into the YouTube chat, so people can see it. If I were going to use this, and I probably will at some point for something, but I'm also going to have to fact check it. It'll be a good place to get something started.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
But this this is just another tool, unless you decide that you want to trust it. And I feel like this is something that, we kind of had to do this with search engines to start with. That just because the search engine says something is the number one search, you don't necessarily believe that, or at least we don't. Hopefully the general public has figured that out too. And we're going to have to train them to be the same kind of skeptical here. Today's edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by the Mac Voices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter. Visit macvoices.com/newsletter today, sign up, and stay up to date.
It's the same kind of tool. If search engine says something, it's number one search. It is number one search by that algorithm. But the question is, does that mean that the things it found are actually true? Because, there's plenty of wrong stuff on the internet. And, also, does that necessarily mean that's the most relevant to what is actually in your mind of what you're looking for? But, I think, the idea, people are like, I think this is wish casting that like, oh, this is going to break Google's monopoly. I don't think so.
I agree with you completely. This is not a Google buster.
No.
But does it create a new class of search engines that maybe only Google and Bing can play in? And if it is Baidu, and if that's incorrect, I'm sorry, folks. But are there going to be just a limited number because of the technical expertise required to create these things?
There's already a limited number of search engines,
right?
Really, there's only one to a rounding error, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bing is number 2, and it's basically in the noise.
Yeah, it's a very distant number 2.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's nobody would miss it, or almost other than Microsoft people. And the flip side is I've seen a lot of chat, and I think it's maybe true that Google isn't as good as it used to be for not sure why, if it's changes at Google or also changes in the internet itself. And, there's so much junk, and this ChatGPT is probably going to, but there's already there's been, junk content from people trying to game search engines, for, 15, 20 years.
That's
so you go do a Google search and you just find just tons of maybe a majority of the content on the internet is just to try to trick search engines, and then try to harvest a click somehow by accident, because it's all this content. It's like this content has zero value. There's nothing, you find pages all the time that are just, there's no reason for them to exist that I can see, other than it must be somehow they're trying to game search engines, and that's it.
So in the industry, of course, people like to make it sound better than we're trying to game the search engines. So they call it SEO, search engine optimization. Right. This is exactly why when you do a Google search for a recipe, you get this stupid long article. And then at the end, there's the paragraph that's the recipe that you need. That's not because these people want to write that stupid thing. They just want to give you a recipe on their website. But they have to write all that other content so that Google will actually look at the page and then index it and rank it for them. Without all of that extra stuff, Google will look at that page and say, there's no valuable content here, even though the value is actually just the recipe that you wanted. And so part of the problem we're seeing today is that people are having to create web pages to cater to Google just so that they can get ranking. And so, yes, Jim, you are seeing pages out there that you will read and say, there's literally no point for this, and that's correct. There's no point for humans. But
you're talking about Google. You're talking about pages that actually have a recipe on them, and I think there's a lot of pages that have nothing on them for a human. At least what you're talking about is okay. Well, you got there and there was something, maybe it wasn't the, highlighted thing, but, I can get a recipe off of this. So SEO is sort of, I don't know that that's necessarily, completely an evil thing, nothing wrong with trying to, but if it's the entire point of what you're doing SEO and nothing else, then, that's,
I agree.
It's like spam. It's like littering. It's, crime, all things that detract from humanity and whatnot rather than enhance it.
So does ChatGPT, is there a possibility that this could break the hold that Google has from an SEO standpoint? That it might see through, and I'm talking about ChatGPT. I'm talking about Google's version. I'm talking about what Microsoft is doing, what the others are doing. Is it possible they'll see through all that and help you dig down to actual relevant information?
I think it will just change how the content is crafted to cater to whatever the new thing is that has the highest likelihood of ranking you on the first page of a search. And now, so today it's like whatever mystery thing Google does, and people have figured out if we do these things, we rank better. When it's like totally in the hands of an AI system like ChatGPT, then people just figure out how they craft the content for that. But Chuck, here's a thing that I'm really curious to see how it plays out. What ChatGPT does is take content from the internet and use that to learn. So when people are using ChatGPT to generate the content, it's now going to be learning from its own content. What happens
from other AIs like it. So I think ultimately, this is kind of like pollution, or like I mentioned, like litter. I think it's going to degrade the internet. It's great. SEO is like a war, and search engines are constantly, people are constantly trying to trick the search engines, and then the search engines are looking at how people are tricking the search engine and adjusting their algorithm to try to bust through that so that, the results are good and people want to use them. Because, ultimately if Google, if you do a Google search and you don't find anything that helps you, eventually you're going to stop using Google and, Google won't be any, they'll go out of business. I mean, we're way far from that, but and I think it is kind of going downhill over, like compared to 10 years ago. The breakthrough of Google was PageRank algorithm that they came up with in the late 90s, which turned out to be a really good way at the time to rank searches by who else linked to it. But people figured out what they were doing and, started putting up all these fake links, and that would trick the algorithm. So that didn't really work anymore. And so Google's constantly working on adjusting this. And, I'm sure, people are going to try to generate stuff to fool search engines. So, the question is, who's going to win the war, Google or the polluters? And I don't know. It's probably going to swing back and forth. And this is just sort of another episode, another battle in this war.
Eric, go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
Jim, I think you're totally nailing it there. And what I expect to see happen here with these AI tools is the same thing that we've been seeing in like the whole cloud security space, where you have what I'll call white hat AI and black hat AI, and it's this whole behind the scenes war to hack into systems and to protect systems at the same time. And I think ultimately we'll end up with a whole system for ranking where it's the AI figuring out how to rank something, and then the competing AIs figuring out how to game the ranking AI, and they'll just keep going back and forth. And that's just the future of search.
Eric, I'm not going to try to paste
it too.
Yeah, Eric, I'm not going to try to paste your bio.
That's good because that should not go out in public.
Okay. But so seriously,
it sounds great.
It sounds really good. You sound so dignified. I don't know what you're doing here, but how much of it is you captioned it by saying total fiction? I mean, is it total fiction, or are there some nuggets of truth in there, like Jeff's, that you could adjust it a little bit and have it be decent?
I work for that department. Everything else in there is fiction.
Okay.
So it looks like what it did is it scraped the departmental website, and it's a statistics department. So just assumed that everybody working in it was a statistician, and then wrote the bio based on. The majority of the people in the department are, statisticians, not necessarily exactly the same kind, but it would work for a lot of them. But it's assuming I'm faculty, not staff. It's making a lot of assumptions that are wrong. So, if it was, I guess where I worry about stuff like this is, when you get somebody who's given the assignment of, write a bio for this person coming in, or write a bio for, this list of people before we have this next conference, this is an easy way of generating something that looks really good. And it kind of reminds me, spell checkers have been around for a while. They work pretty well. Occasionally it gets something wrong, but then they came out with grammar checkers, and like Microsoft Word would come up and say, this sentence should really be this, and completely rewrite it and hand you something else back. And sometimes, it would make a lot of sense. Other times it completely changed the meaning of what you were trying to say, and it was just not a good fit. And, you looked at it and you said, replace, don't replace, make a decision. I think this is getting to the point where it's really hard to decide which is right. A poorly written bio or something like this. The fact that you had to ask me how much of that is true is kind of disturbing. Because
I was pretty impressed.
Yeah, so was I. It's like, wow, I really, maybe I should try applying some places. I don't know.
I deserve a raise.
Yeah.
So, seriously. I quote, Eric is dedicated to advancing his field through both teaching and research and is highly respected by his colleagues for his expertise and commitment to advancing the field. Take that to your supervisor tomorrow and demand a raise.
And you can say you read it on the internet, so it's got to be true, right?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Webb,
I wonder if it always does positive. Is it programmed to always do? What if you put in Sam Bankman-Fried? I don't have a ChatGPT window handy, but if somebody does, write a bio of Sam Bankman-Fried, does it?
Dave's doing it right now.
He became a billionaire by age 25, and
Dave is punching it in. Well, while Dave's, go ahead if you're ready.
No, I'm not ready.
Okay,
I wasn't punching it in actually.
Oh, okay. Dave and Webb and I all work in an industry that lives and dies by very specific language, and so I'm wrestling with what this could mean for us now. Usually, those contracts, they're printed, they're signed, and they're memorialized in some immutable fashion. But how soon before somebody says, well, we want to modify this paragraph, and somebody decides to take a shortcut and use one of these AIs, and it comes up with exactly the wrong meaning, and then we're going to be faced with cleaning it up. Webb, is that plausible?
First of all, that's why we don't let the clients write the contract.
Right.
So I'll start that as the basis. And also remember that, and I've said this before, and I don't want to get into a big insurance conversation, but remember the insurance industry does not have federal regulation regulated by each individual states. And so each individual state has to approve contract language, policy language. So, and each state is going to have some sense of nuance. So we already have variations. If you try to look at a contract, an insurance policy contract between Pennsylvania and Missouri, there will most likely be some differences in there. So, and that's just the world that we live in. The bigger issue of what's this whole ChatGPT and this smart chat and creative writing. It'll be interesting. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking it's Siri 2.0 or Alexa 2.0. It's interesting. It's fun. We've had some fun doing these bios and stuff. I did it in the private chat. I tried to. Hey, here's me. David, you found me.
I rewrote it because I had to get more specific. Just like when I did mine for In Touch with iOS, when I put my name, there was not enough data. But I write a bio about Webb Bixby from Kansas City Life Insurance.
Okay,
and that's what came up.
So anyway, it's interesting. I think it's just kind of. I'm not getting excited about it. I'm going to rebuild the company around it and put it that way. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, but I guess I can't decide if this is the start of something or if this is just today's current fad. But Eric's comments about spell checkers and grammar checkers was, I think, spot on and those were useful. Those were and are and continue to be useful tools. And I feel like this is going to be a useful tool if it's used responsibly. If not, a whole nother matter.
Mm-hmm.
We're back in the next edition of MacVoices to talk more about ChatGPT in general and its combination with Microsoft's Bing in particular. Then we shift gears over to Mastodon and the state of Mastodon and why which instance of Mastodon you join matters. That's next time on MacVoices. We'll see you then. As always, I'm Chuck Joyner. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.